like I told you, I feel like I just haven't been color correcting properly. So more through, I just want to see like your process of doing it and understanding how to shoot on S-Log3 properly and how to expose properly so that I can color correct properly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, we're gonna go through my process, and I have this timeline laid out right now. And yeah, so I'll teach you how to like read a waveform and kind of like I basically do everything in Lumetri. And I don't know, is that what you use, or is that what you've kind of been using?
Yeah, I've been using
on the A7S2, right?
Yeah, A7S2.
Okay, cool. So yeah, basically I do everything within Lumetri, and they're like, I'm assuming you know how to use curves from like Lightroom and stuff like that. Have you used them before?
Yeah, I have.
Curves and like the three-way. Have you ever used the three-way color corrector before?
Wait, what's
in Lumetri, it's like with the three different.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
no.
So yeah, and we'll show you how like that correlates with the RGB parades, and like, do you know how to read a vector scope and all that stuff. So if I come over to my handy dandy switcher, boom, so many technical difficulties over here. Okay, so these are your scopes. So assuming you've seen these before, this is your waveform. It looks a little weird now because we're looking at a grayscale. And why is this? There we go. Gosh. Okay. So this is a grayscale. Basically, it goes from 0, black, all the way to 100, white. And those are right now, that's represented. If you look on the side here on the scale, and you can get as close as you want, it's okay. I know you're a little far. You can actually swing that mic over too if you want. Just bounce on over here.
Yeah, just bouncing on the medicine ball.
Yeah. If you see, it says 0 here. So this is black. So see how it's just pinned right, 0,
yeah,
0, and then it goes up with all these kind of big numbers up to 255. So right now we're in an 8-bit color space. So the A7S II is an 8-bit camera, which means that it can record 256 shades of a certain color. And that's what this represents. So the waveform is kind of similar to the histogram. Actually, I can open up a histogram. So this is a sideways kind of histogram. I think I have a histogram right here.
I was like, that's not the histogram.
Yeah, so the histogram is basically left to right. And it shows you your values. It basically shows you the number of pixels that fall within a certain value. So like from like just looking at this histogram, I would say, there's a lot of shadows, a lot of dark areas, maybe a little bit of midtones, definitely not as much highlights, and then you obviously know when you're clipping when there's like it's starting to fall off the graph. So the reason that why we don't use the histogram in video is because you don't exactly know where those pixels are. Right now we can see the quantity of how many pixels are falling on this y-axis, but we don't know exactly where it is. And that's where the waveform kind of comes in. So if we go over here, as you can see, this whole grayscale goes from left to right, from black to white. And if you look over here, the same thing. It's just a whole linear ramp, pretty much. So that means if I look at this very specific area, like this line, if you just drag this waveform right on top of your image, it'll show you where, like along that image, your luminance values lie. So you obviously know how to use curves. And the cool thing about visualizing a grayscale is that if you make an adjustment on your curves and like look at the waveform, it reflects. It almost is like a one-to-one reflection of what the adjustment you just made on the curves is. When I first saw this, my mind was like totally blown.
Yeah, my mind's pretty blown right now.
So it's basically kind of exactly what it kind of reflects these. So So skin tones. Skin tones on the waveform, the skin tones usually land right around in between 40 and 60 IRE. And they're called IRE values because it's like I think back in the old days, it like measured voltage, like how strong the signal was. And so like darker skin tones land right around 40. Like really wider skin tones land kind of above 60. So there's this kind of middle patch. So it's basically landing right in the middle. If I just plop this waveform onto this grayscale, that would correlate, the skin tones would correlate kind of right around the middle here within this area. So one thing that I do is whenever I am making adjustments to skin tones is that I will say I plop 2 points to kind of, I imagine I put little pins on 40 and 60. And if I make adjustments to in the middle, you can see what that does to the waveform and how, imagine those were skin tones, and I would either be adding contrast or decreasing contrast and affecting the kind of luminance values of just the skin tones. And as you can see, it's like wiggling around. Yeah, it's just like wiggling. So if you wanted to have extra control over that, you can just obviously add kind of extra pins here, I'd like to call them. And then you can better isolate those skin tones, if that makes sense. So that's why I really like using the curves adjustment. I don't really like using the basic correction like the contrast, because as you can see, it just kind of gives you a very general S curve. And like I like having a little bit more control over my contrast. And if you can see here, yeah, so like even if I drag like the end of this point, that will be reflected here. And to further illustrate that, so here we just flipped the grayscale. Mm-hmm. So now it's going from white to black. So as we look at the waveform, it's going from 100 just to slow ramp down. So if we add in an actual like subject in here, you can see here's just white text called grayscale. If we look at the waveform, you can see the bits of the text that are just right here and represented as at 100, they're just plain white. And that tells you, if you just look at the waveform, just solely look at the waveform, that'll tell you that, okay, something kind of in the middle of my image here is clipping. Something is absolutely total white. So it's a good way to really pinpoint where exactly, because like if you looked at a histogram, if you saw this big, huge spike on the highlights, that doesn't really tell you where it is. It just tells you that it's there. Mm-hmm. So with a waveform, you can visually depict and see where it is. So, okay, it's kind of right smack dab in the middle. There's something clipping. Right smack dab in the middle, it's clipping. So, and then same holds true if I add different shades of this too. So obviously this would be right around 50%, the one in the middle right here. And if you can tell, there's this point where it kind of intersects with the grayscale. So this grayscale ramp is going up and it intersects with the text. And if you look closely right in the middle, that's kind of where see how the S is super hard to read because it just kind of blends in. So that means it's the same luminance values as the grayscale. And then same thing for the black one at the bottom right here. So that means something's all the way at the bottom. And then so if I went ahead and changed one of these colors here, like this white one, so you just moved in kind of in between these ones. So that's kind of basically how to read a waveform. Once you add actual images, it looks kind of really trippy. So here's a thumbnail that I have of Savannah, and this is what this waveform looks like. So reading this waveform, you can see this kind of this very bottom heavy in the center and kind of on the very left of frame, with all this detail being clipped in the shadows. So if I look at the actual image, okay, there's a ton of detail just not even there, and also a ton of detail not even here. And then so this is the RGB parade, the one right next to it. So this basically splits up the luma values, or this basically splits it up into red, green, and blue, the red, green, and blue channels. So you could see the blue is just this massive, huge spike, and it's like almost at 100, all the way at the top. Even though if you look at the regular waveform, everything's like super low key, like it's like barely peaking 60. So even though this is predominantly blue, it's still kind of low key and dark because it's only the blue channel, and there's like no reds, because like 100 would be a combination of red, green, and blue. If that makes sense. So if I go to this next still we filmed yesterday, you can see here, the top left, there's a lot of detail being clipped and missing there. We're actually not losing any detail at all in the shadows. It's just we're missing a lot of detail on the top right. Look at the top right image, it's the sky. Yay. So basically, if you set up a scene, or if you set up your frame and you're seeing, you can just look at just take one look at the waveform and visually see problem areas in the frame. And it's a good way to reference, okay, crap, I'm clipping here. Okay, I need to bring this down. I need to bring this up, vice versa. So I'm going to close this histogram. And then, so this is the vector scope. The vector scope is basically a visual map of where your colors are. And then, so you have the primary colors, which are red, green, and blue. And then the secondary colors, cyan, magenta, and yellow. And skin tones usually fall within this kind of sideways line right here, if you can kind of see that. And you can see it's kind of like, it has this shape. So this shape represents the legal bounds of color, like broadcast safe. You ever heard that term, broadcast safe? Yeah. So basically, if you exceed these bounds, you're not broadcast safe. And it's basically the farther that these colors stretch, the more saturated it is. So if I come over here and go into Lumetri and then just jack up the saturation and then look at my waveform or my vector scope, it basically just spreads all of them out. And you can see I'm spilling out over in the reds and the yellows. And then if I just look at the image, it just looks like, yeah. And the vector scope is a really good tool I don't use the vector scope too much, but it's a really good tool to like determine if you have like color casts, or if you're trying to analyze where your colors are actually leaning towards. So for instance, I shot these two images yesterday. I got some new filters in. And I wanted to see if there was a color cast. So just by looking at this, these two frames, what are you noticing? Do you notice anything?
The second one has a redder tint.
Redder tint, okay. And this one,
green.
Yeah, greener. Yeah. So exactly. So this one I was using the built-in NDs on my camera, which are like pretty true to color, so I don't really worry about the ND color. This one was using the filters that I bought, and then I can actually visually see this. If you look in the vector scope here, and I cycle between the two, see how one ever so slightly shifts towards the red.
Yeah.
And then the one with the filters that I bought, they shift slightly towards the green. It's kind of an offset towards the green. So yeah. It's a kind of a really solid way of just determining if you have color casts. And if you're doing any color work, like if you go into your color wheels and you're bringing stuff around, you can be like super precise and pinpoint where you want each of your colors to fall. I primarily use the RGB parades for the color wheels, but we'll get into that in a second. Do you have any questions so far? I know it's kind of throwing a lot at you.
So how do you even get to this?
If you look at the top here, you can click the color.
Oh, okay.
But if it's not even there, you can go to Window, Workspaces, and actually no, Window.
Lumetri scopes.
Yeah, Lumetri scopes.
Okay.
And then you can right click, and then so right now I have the RGB parade, vector scope, YUV, and the waveform luminance.
Cool.
Luma waveform.
Yeah, I've never opened that ever.
Yeah,
I've only used the Lumetri color.
Yeah, so visually seeing like having it, that's where like having like multiple monitors is like really helpful, just because you can dedicate one monitor to
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it's super helpful. But so
No, it just sucks because I edit on a laptop.
Right. Yeah. Better get that other screen. Okay. So let me just double check this. Actually, let me send this out. Cool. Awesome. All right. So we shot this footage earlier today of you, just so you can kind of get a sense. So you mentioned having kind of worked with LUTs before. Like, so how do you currently use LUTs, like yourself?
I put it in, like when I go to lumetri color.
Mm-hmm.
I just go,
So where do you get your LUTs from? You just find them on the internet?
yeah, pretty much.
That's cool.
But like they usually have YouTube videos of them just whatchamacallit, previewing like how it looks like ungraded versus graded,
and then you'll just follow their download link.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. So there are different kinds of LUTs. There's a monitor LUT and there are grading LUTs. And then you can kind of use the two interchangeably, but basically you use a monitoring LUT just for that, monitoring, and then use a grading LUT for grading. So I have a specific LUT that I use because I shoot pretty much everything in S-Log3. Mm-hmm. So everything I shoot is in S-Log3, and I use a LUT to transform that into Rec. 709. Mm-hmm. And then all I really do is tweak and color correct that Rec. 709 image. So if I go into here, and that makes it really easy for me because all I really have to do is just pop on my Rec. 709 LUT and then kind of grade from there. So if I take, say, this image for example, if I take this image, and so basically if you go into lumetri color, go into basic correction, you see where it says input LUT?
Yep.
So basically this is for technical LUTs. So technical LUTs are where it's basically transforming the color space into Rec. 709. And input LUTs are designed specifically for a specific camera or for like S-Log3 or Canon or C-Log, you know. Yeah. So that's why if you open this, that's why you kind of there are already kind of preset ones, like the Airy ones, Amira, Alexa, the Phantom. No, not you, Alexa.
Not that Alexa.
My Alexa goes off goes off so many times. Ugh.
That was great.
Anyways,
I feel like I'm not talking to this properly.
That's okay. No, I can hear you. So basically I'll go in, so I already have mine installed. So if you can see here, S-Log3 to AreaLux 709 balanced. And this basically mimics the Alexa cameras. Mm-hmm. And it's designed specifically for S-Log3, more specifically the FS7, but it's designed to mimic the Alexa sensor. And I really like, so basically I pop that on and then boom, I already have a really nice looking Rec. 709 image. And you can see that what that does to our waveform too. So this is without. So S-Log being a log format, obviously everything is very compressed to capture the most dynamic range possible. And then turning on the LUTs, forgot the buttons. There we go. So yeah, and basically even with putting the technical LUT on, we're still not even clipping on the entire image. So basically, if you look at the waveform here, the brightest part is kind of just left of center. So look at the image, just left of center, and then there's your
sky.
It's your sky. The darker parts of your image are your like jacket here. Let's see. I wish I could, because it's really cool because the focus monitor that you have, the small HD monitor you have, you can set it to show a waveform at like 50% opacity but full screen. So like you can literally see your image behind a waveform.
Oh, wow.
And it's like it's visually like it makes so much more sense.
I'll have to test that out.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can see, there's a couple hotspots here. We're still not even clipping. There are a couple hotspots, like 3 little hotspots here.
The car glares.
Yep, exactly. Boom,
cool.
boom, boom.
I'm getting it.
Yeah. Yep. And then a lot of this tree detail on the street. It's kind of right around here. And then you can see the sky. It just has this kind of very striking arc right here. So yeah, this is a technical LUT. If you go back into here, creative LUT, these are kind of where you get into your color profiles, your different looks, I like to call them. So a lot of people like calling these grading LUTs. Richie Johnson, I did not make this. I bought this LUT. So this is a LUT that I have purchased, and I have different flavors of this one. I could probably link that one. But no, I bought this one. It's weird. I have to like keep looking at the chat.
Oh yeah,
to make sure.
I
but
forgot that's a chat. I was blowing you up last time.
Okay. Yeah, no. I bought this LUT, and I have different flavors of this LUT depending on where I'm exposing on. So actually, if I save, if I wanted to, I use the LUT calc. I'm not sure if you heard of the LUT calc. So if I go into LUTs, S-log3, area look. So I converted them to like a bunch of different kind of standards here. So basically here is the one-stop version. So if I'm exposing one stop over, I'll use this LUT. So basically you can see in post, I bring it down one stop.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you work with like Heather, and she like will sometimes expose one or two stops over. And we'll get into that in a sec. But going back to the creative LUT. So basically, if I like do it, basically imagine that I did all my grades and I go into here and I want it to look like any one of these like film stocks here. And so then I would apply this. Normally I try to do it around like 60-70%, just to kind of give it a little extra, just to push it more towards what the looks like, what look I'm trying to emulate. Mm-hmm. And you can like obviously scroll through all these, and I have my own set of LUTs that I use, and I don't know how many LUTs do you have? Like, do you even know what they are, or like?
No, I know they're Rec 709 LUTs. I just didn't know how to properly.
Yeah, so basically,
I was putting them in the creative.
Yeah, that's I think Keem did that too, and then I was like, hey, you should put that in the. No, I think actually, I think he was putting his creative LUTs in the basic in the input LUT, and then the creative one is more for your.
So he was flipping it.
Yeah, he kind of did the opposite. So this one is nice because you have an intensity slider. It's basically an opacity slider. So if I go into here and I select this LUT, I can determine how strong I want this LUT to affect it. Yeah. So yeah, basically, so let's go to another image. Let's go to this one.
Oh my God.
Perfect. Love it.
Hello, I am Asian.
So here, I'll go here. I'll slap on my LUT, my area look 709 LUT. And so basically all I really do for the most part is most of my adjustments come from the curves. Mm-hmm. And obviously you want to have your waveform up. So I think for this, I exposed your skin at around 50-ish IRA, and you can kind of see that right here. Mm-hmm. And it helps if I'm like setting up an interview, I'll pull up the waveform. We're like, hey, can you wave for me really quick? And then they'll wave. And then you can see their hand moving around.
Like actually moving on the waveform.
Yeah. And then I'll use that and be like, okay, that's their skin tone. And I'll line that up and I'll be like, all right, my skin tone. So for exposing skin tones, it's around 40 to 60 IRE. So if I'm filming someone with a really dark skin tone, I'll probably put them at 40 IRE. Mm-hmm. And then mostly for like whiter skin tones, I try to do like 55-ish. I think what I did for you is like 50 to 55-ish. So if we move this around, so like we can see your hand, see your hands moving like right here.
Oh yeah. Cool. That's some trippy stuff right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So your skin tones are predominantly right here. So basically mostly what I do honestly is I just do a simple basic S curve. So I'll start by bringing my shadows down. And another thing to know, actually I'll get to that later, but, so yeah, I'll bring my shadows down, and obviously I'll keep in mind, I don't want to like lose too much detail, but the thing is, it's pretty cool since there's already an anchor point down here at the bottom. So everything if you look at the bottom, see how I'm not clipping anything? It's at the bottom, but I'm not clipping. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. So if I move this, even if I move this all the way down and crush everything else, I'm still not really clipping anything because this kind of anchor point is kind of like a checkpoint if that makes sense.
I gotcha.
So everything kind of will be contained by these top two anchor points. So conversely, if I go all the way to the top here, and I go all the way to the top, I can't even. I obviously didn't have enough headroom there, but yeah. So basically, everything is contained within these 2 points. So basically, what I do for this is I bring down the shadows a little bit, and then bring up the highlights, and then obviously within moderation too. Don't want it to be like too crazy contrasty.
Too much.
And then also within respect to your skin tone. So if you can see here, I brought your skin tone up by probably like 20-ish, probably IRE. So I'll probably bring that down a little bit.
Or a lot.
Yeah. And then another thing I like to do is I like to go into like kind of my midtones, kind of probably around 40-ish, right around this area. And then I'll just give this a little like lift. And then if you can see what that does is it kind of lifts the skin tone a little bit. It adds like this contrast to the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that? But also, since they're using curves, it also has that like Bezier like effect, how it affects the other sides of the point too. So as I bring this up, look what happens to this bottom arc. As I bring this up, it gets pushed even further down.
Mm-hmm.
So just by lifting up the skin tones, I'm pushing down the blacks and even adding a little bit more cross. So that's why I don't want to go too crazy. So obviously now I'm clipping. So I'll just give a slight.
But can't you put a point on that bottom curve?
You could. You absolutely could.
Yeah.
Look at that. Now you're just controlling that. Wow, you're learning.
I'm learning.
You're learning.
Knowledge is power.
That's right. All right. So let's see where to go. Man, we're really dark. Here, I'm going to adjust this camera really quick.
Okay.
Boss. It's okay. Just jack up the ISO. It'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. Add more grain.
Yeah. It's a creative choice. Okay, so another thing to note, it's probably hard to see because his like arm is in the way. The color wheels. So if I look at my RGB parade, like we said, this splits up each color channel. So I'll go into the color wheels. These adjust your shadows, midtones, and highlights respectively. So if I go back, I totally forgot.
Yeah,
so if I go back to this grayscale,
I never touch those.
if I go back to this grayscale and I start moving around these shadows, look what happens to the RGB parade.
I'll turn a little blue.
Yeah. So, and then specifically see how this kind of has this, like the red channel has this sharp curve, like right here. And by the time I move it over, it just constantly changes. So it's kind of the same thing as the curves. Like everything's trying to be contained within the lower part of the waveform. And then if I go in the highlights, it'll try to adjust only from like this part up what's going on with the color.
Well, I guess the reason why I don't use it is because I don't really want to color my shadows and my highlights and my midtones.
Well, it depends on. This is really helpful if you have a badly color balanced, like if your white balance was like off, or if there's like specific problem areas that you're trying to correct for. I don't use this. I sometimes use it creatively. But most of the time it's just trying to fix
the white balance.
Fix ugly.
That's what I've tried to do.
Yeah. So basically this is a really good tool. And then so what I try to do is I try working outwards in. So I'll start from these outside ones. And then because the midtones kind of affect both the shadows and the highlights. So if I start moving this around, but you can kind of still see it. It's still very contained between the two. Like, look at the blue channel.
So weird just seeing all of them move. They're like dancing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also look at the vector scope too, which is really cool. So you can move this around and it's really cool. anyways, so if I go back to this image, which one? This one. So the way that I kind of look at color balancing is you wanna imagine these three parades stacked on top of each other. So you want to look at distinct areas of the parade. So if I look here, you can see this little kind of mountaintop and the red channel. And then I kind of see, okay, this is at 40, kind of the middle of the peak is right around 40. I'll look at the green channel. Okay, the green peak is a little bit above 40. So the green, there's a little bit more green. Look at the blue. The blue's not even in the 40. Kind of see that? So that's where you can use your color wheel. So 40, this I would probably use the midtones to help adjust with this. So I'll go here into my midtones. And then, so what do I need more of? I need more green. All right, I need less green and I need more blue. And less green, more blue. So if I just start kind of moving this around, less green, more of a little bit too much blue, a little more red. And then that's a little bit more balanced now. And then you can see these kind of this spike kind of all lands within the same area, the same general area. And also this secondary spike too, right here to the left of it.
Cool.
And so, yeah, if you see anything, like if you had, like, you can do the same thing with these ones. So you just try to match them up and just try to say, okay, I have these low spikes are pretty good. This maybe blue spike is a little bit higher than these two ones. So let me take down the blue. So basically, if you want to take away something, just look at the color wheel and then just move it in the opposite direction. So move it around a little bit, and yeah. So if I turn this on and off, you can tell there's really green heavy. So now it's kind of more naturally balanced. But yeah, so I'll only use this if the image is like really bad. If it's like, in really rough shape. A lot of times I do like the kind of natural green cast. Also keep in mind, this was using the filters that I got that also add that green cast. So yeah, that's like the basic gist of how I like go through stuff. So if I'm like, most of my stuff is and also another thing too. So let me add this LUT, the technical one. So
why do you gotta pick that one?
This exposure slider is like kind of really bad because it just kind of like if you start bringing stuff down, it just doesn't. If I'm making an exposure adjustment, I really like using the curves because this kind of brings everything down naturally. I don't really know how to explain it in words, but the exposure one just kind of like, it just pretty much crushes everything.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, like, if I wanted to bring everything under 40 IRE, it just looks like an opacity slider, whereas if I went to the curves, obviously it's really crushed, but it brings down, it's able to bring down the image in a much more natural way. So like this actually looks like it was underexposed rather than
you just
bringing down the opacity slider. So if I'm making exposure adjustments, I'll usually try to do them in using the curves. So going back to this image, this great image, a lot of times what I'll do is I have my own pack of LUTs that I bought. So if I go here, actually,
wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to make your own LUT, like, because it's all coding.
It's not that hard. I haven't made my own LUTs, but it's not really hard. I think you can do them actually in Premiere, within Lumetri. I just never have. I think it's like kind of like think of it as like a preset in Lightroom. Like,
yeah, because that's what I want to do. I want to emulate kind of like my presets in Lightroom and do it on video.
Yeah.
Because I just want to keep that color aesthetic.
Yeah,
all the
basically all
same.
you need to do is you need to start from, like, say if you have a Rec 709 image, you need to manually do it yourself and like match it. And it's a little bit tricky because it might react differently in higher key situations rather than lower key situations. But basically you need to match it like perfectly in a variety of different scenarios, and then you can export that LUT and then bring it into like Premiere if you wanted to do that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, I did not know. I thought it was just all some complicated stuff.
It is a little complicated.
Well, I mean, it's easier said than done, but
Yeah. So actually, let me go here. So the LUTs that I'm going to make a little screenshot of this. So the LUTs that I use creatively, for the most part, are the IWL TBBAT or IWL TBAP LUTs. And there's this it's just all of these like crazy LUTs. So it's like, it's a lot. So what I'll do is I'll go to this website that they made, and I can go to my screenshot, drop this guy in. It'll process for a sec, and then
oh, cool.
yeah, it lets you preview all their LUTs. So bring it down to 75-ish%, and then I'll just scroll through. And then like that's a pretty cool LUT, and you can toggle them on and off using the E key. I'll scroll through. I'll maybe save some that I like. Okay, this one is cool. I'll save this one.
Do you have to purchase these?
Yeah, I purchased these.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's kind of cool. I'm just kind of cycling through some. This one's cool. I like this one. So
do you purchase them all on that IW?
yeah,
website?
It comes in a pack, so it all comes in all in one. So basically, okay, so I have these 3 images. So I have just messed it up. So I have these images, and I can. Where's the name? The name's at the bottom. You can see this one's F9180, W6920. So out of these 3, which one do you like the best?
The middle one?
This one?
Yeah.
This
I
one?
like warmer tones.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the middle one, right?
So this is, yeah. This one is 9180. So a lot of times I'll just get a sticky note and just write them all the ones I like. So 9180. So I'll go back into Premiere. Save, of course. Browse. LUTs. Folder. Cube. Standard. So actually that's a good thing to note too. So if you look into here, they give you all of these different flavors. So if you they give you a log version. So if you didn't even convert it to Rec 709, you would use the log version because it's slog. Or it's a log format. But we're using standard since it's already in Rec 709 format. So the one that we had was, what was it? It was F9180. So I'll find that F9180. Drop this to 75%. And
why does it look cooler?
it's basically, that's interesting.
It doesn't look the same.
9180. That's weird. I've never noticed that. Wait, let me. Interesting.
Oh.
I don't know. That's weird.
Are you sure you screenshotted the right one? Like for the right
Yeah,
one?
because I exported it directly from,
I gotcha.
from Premiere. But sometimes also it's worth noting, like we ran into this kind of with one of my other buddies, is that sometimes just this creative tab just won't like work. Like sometimes you'll put in, you'll like just select your LUT and it'll look totally washed out and like not how it's supposed to work. So sometimes you just either have to restart Premiere or just use another like adjustment layer or something.
Oh.
So Yeah, that's really weird though how that did that.
Yeah, usually I just play with all the like I just pick and choose like, oh, what does this one look like? What does this one look like? And it's just always like too over colored. Like, does that make sense? Because I'm probably not using the
See, like
right
right
LUT.
now, it's not even changing.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, wait, it's not even on duh. Selection. Let me just click random one. Was it F9180?
9180, yeah, F9180. Oh, I have another question.
Yeah.
So how come it looks different on your top screen?
So this monitor is garbage.
Oh, okay.
That's why. Yeah, that's an easy question.
All right. Well, easy enough.
It's super bad. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why it looks different off of. It looks totally not the same. Let me export this. Yeah, sometimes Premiere just sucks.
Great. What I use for all my work.
Yeah, well, me too.
I'm just kidding.
So yeah, that looks totally. See, like it looks like totally washed out. Like look at these blacks, like dude. So I'm gonna chalk that one up to Premiere just being dumb. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
Cool. I learned a lot of what I've been doing wrong.
I don't know. Did you want to try coloring some of these?
Sure.
All right, here. Hold on a sec. Let me reset these.
Oh, now I feel the pressure.
Actually, let me take this one off.
You don't always have to use a creative LUT, right? But you always.
No, you don't. You don't always have to set. All right, we'll switch.
Okay. Man, my ears feel weird now. Play with your stream deck now. I'm just kidding.
You're gonna mess everything up.
No, I'm kidding. Why is your mouse so fancy? I don't want to mess anything up.
That's what everyone says.
Well, I seriously, I don't want to accidentally press a button. So which one was you used? This one?
Yeah, balanced.
Balanced.
You can use. There's different flavors. So the film like is a little bit warmer and adds a little bit of cooler tones to the shadows. Standard is.
Oh, no, I like that already.
Standard is pretty much like balanced. Yeah. Yeah, I like film light. I've been using it film like a little bit more.
And then that's it. And then this stuff.
So I would go into try going into curves first.
Curves?
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then that's where you would pull up your waveform and make adjustments from there. So whenever I do make adjustments, I try. Obviously, you don't want any detail to clip, so I'll just put all of that shadow detail kind of sitting right above 0, and then same thing. Well, it also depends on what it is. If something's not bright white, obviously, I won't. Or if something's not bright white or pure black, I won't put it at 0 or 100. It just depends on what it is. So.
Usually when I do this, it's just like, oh, I want to mess around until it
looks
looks good.
I really wish there was like a waveform feature in Lightroom. That would be super like awesome.
Or maybe they do. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. So wow, I just feel so much pressure that there are so many people that could be watching me right now. Nah. Okay. So, well, how I usually do it, I usually have 3 points.
Okay.
And then, well, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but like I said, this is how I amateurly do it. Because I like having that contrast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I usually just stick with 3 points, but maybe I should do more points to control certain.
Yeah, it just depends. Like I'll do that. Like if you go to a clip like with your face, like your skin, like that one. So let's work on that one.
Move it. Okay, I'm just even more awkward. Okay, whatever. I guess that's the best clip.
Now, wait, let me see. Let me play it a little bit.
Okay, there. That one is.
Okay, we're good.
That was all right. Yeah. Wait. Were you gonna say something?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
You said go to one with my skin.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So start working on this one.
Oh, okay. You know that feeling where you're like, oh yeah, I learned a lot, and then you actually do it,
And you're like,
and then you just freeze up.
Well, the cool thing about that is this will be available on replay. So
yeah, I'll just watch it over and over again.
Just give me those watch minutes, please, because I need to get that partnership back.
Well, technically, okay. So wait, step 1, I do curves first.
Well, I mean, you can do whatever you want.
I can do whatever I want.
What I do is I do curves.
Okay, I'm just opening and closing.
And then obviously you can see with your.
How do you Windows? I'm a Mac person. Sorry.
What do you want to do?
Oh no, I was just looking for the.
Oh, how do you Windows?
Undo. How do you Windows?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Sometimes it's just a little too much.
And then another thing sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
No, go ahead.
So actually actually double click the curves just to reset it. So one thing that I'll do is put a point on the very bottom, like almost near like a little bit higher than that. Just drag it up a little bit. Yeah. So what you can do sometimes if I look at my waveform, like this one, I probably wouldn't do it with because your blacks are pretty much near the bottom. But if my blacks are sitting kind of high at like 30 or like 20, what I'll do is I'll drag that very bottom point over to the right on the bottom. No, the way bottom one. Just drag that one.
No, that's not what I wanted. Oh my god, I can't click it.
Actually, here, let me.
Oh, there, I did it. Did I do it?
Yeah, so basically that'll spread your blacks out, and that'll kind of really crush your blacks. But I'll only do that if there's enough like latitude for me to crush the blacks, because obviously I don't want to just crush it for the sake of crushing it.
I just want to see what it does in the waveform.
Yeah, basically it super expands, and then obviously if you have points all throughout the rest of the waveform won't be really affected. But but if you want to really kind of
try this out, if
you have a really high key image and everything's kind of really sitting high on the waveform, I'll bring my blacks down.
Weird.
Yeah, and then you can see that big hump. You can just bring that hump back down. So
this hump.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then obviously you create another hump. So it's like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, curves is just, I have a love-hate relationship with curves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. What kind of?
Here, let me adjust the mouse really quick.
What's up? Oh, the sensitivity.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah. So, I don't know.
So, okay, let's see. Where are your...
I don't like the greenish tint.
Okay.
So, is that highlight?
So, check your RGB parade.
Okay.
The greenish tint, just on where? The whole thing?
Yeah, I feel like it's just a little too green for me. So
maybe start with your shadows. So like look at the shadows of the RGB parade.
Okay.
And then see how
oh my gosh.
see what
like these?
Yeah. See that little spike of green and that little block of green?
Right here.
Yeah, kind of, or the more dense part.
This?
Like a little bit up.
Oh,
Yeah,
this.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
So compare where that is with that the red and the blue channels.
Oh yeah, this is lower.
Mm-hmm. So the red's a little bit lower, and then where's the blue?
I feel like the blue's the same.
Blues
Is it?
is
Or is
yeah, it's probably a little bit.
bit higher? No? Am I tripping?
No, it's pretty. It's pretty much the same. So
Okay.
you basically need to add a little. You just pretty much
Add a little bit more red?
Yeah.
So do I go up?
Yeah. And then while you're dragging it, keep an eye on the waveform.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Oh my god, everything makes sense now.
Yeah.
I just want to see the difference. Whoa, cool.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Wow.
But then where did this go? Like,
so yeah, that would be pretty much lost detail.
oh, okay. I gotcha.
See how it kind of clips off.
I gotcha. Yeah, so I actually like to desaturate myself. Would you just do that literally right here?
Yeah, saturation.
Okay, cool. I usually have it around 90. Maybe a little bit less. I'm just one of those desaturated people.
Probably add a little bit of contrast in the face, and then you could probably even bring down the saturation even more, since you'll be adding.
Would it be right here that I could add, or would you just do it?
Yeah,
in
so
basic?
drag around that middle point.
This?
No,
gotcha.
Curves. See what that does.
Oh, so is this should.
So that's predominantly changing your skin. So yeah, just bring it up and down and see what it does. We can see it on the waveform too.
Cool.
So one thing that I usually do is I try to
There. That's better.
yeah, no, that looks really good. Is so I'll bring up those midtones and then I'll kind of put it right around 40. So I'll bring it back. So that middle point, I'll bring it down a little bit.
A little bit.
Like down the down the ramp. Just slide
Wait, what?
Slide it down the ramp.
Oh, I gotcha. So like right here.
Yeah, kind of like that. And then and then I might bring it down like a hair, you know.
That's too much.
I usually try to adjust my skin tones kind of.
Like around here?
Yeah, right around that area, yeah.
Gotcha. But I mean, wouldn't I be more around here? Because you said you put me around 50 more.
Yeah, so it's how it falls off. So if I showed you that grayscale again, those value, you know how as I made adjustments to that grayscale, the curve, it's kind of, if you think about it, if I had my point at 40, then it would have a smooth kind of gradual fall off back into going up into the next point.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
Dang, what does this do? I'm just messing around now. Interesting.
Yeah, so you were asking about exposing S-Log3. So usually with pretty much any camera system, those skin values are a pretty good starting point.
Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Yep, sorry, don't know how to Windows. How do you toggle back and forth from what it was before?
There's a little check mark on the...
oh, right. Oh, my God. I freaking knew that. Cool. I like to crush it. So maybe a little too much.
Another thing you can do I don't know if you... do you go for that faded look or no?
What do you mean?
Like that faded black?
Oh, like the faded film?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah, a lot of people like doing that, and I try not to do that too much, but the way a lot of people do that is they just bring up that.
This.
Yeah.
I used to do that with my photos.
And just chuck out all that detail.
Yeah. Give it that hipster
Yeah.
film look.
Hashtag hipster.
Hashtag hipster. I'm just going to be known as your hipster friend.
Probably, yeah.
Cool. And then, I mean, essentially, do you just copy and paste it to the other?
You can, yeah. For the most part, that's what I'll do. So I'll go into my effect. I don't know where it is on there.
Yeah, I know how to do it.
Yeah,
where is it? Oh, it's probably just
editing. Yeah, just editing. So I'll just copy and paste that lumetri and then
I'll put it on this one.
Wait, did that have adjustments already?
No. What? Why is that different?
I go back to
this one.
That's the one you got?
Yeah. Copy. Did I do it right? Did I copy it right? I'm so confused.
Did you?
Here, copy. Maybe I'm not pressing the right hotkeys because I don't know this keyboard. Where's paste? Okay, I can't paste.
There's not already a Lumetri on there, is there?
No, there isn't. That's what it's popping up right here. That doesn't make any sense.
Try it again.
This one. So I'm copying. I'm going to this one. And I'm pasting.
Here, let me see.
Okay. Oh my god.
Ramir's like, I'm not working for you right now. Excuse me. All right, let's see. Let's go to tree. It's because you didn't have an input LUT on this one.
Oh, so you always have to input the input LUT first?
No, it should have trimmed. Actually, you don't have an input LUT on this one either.
Oh, what? I didn't? I swear I put one on. I remember putting the film like one on.
Wait, this is weird. So like I'll turn Lumetri off, but it goes into Rec 7. It goes into. Yeah, that's weird. Maybe it put in. Yeah, I don't even know. Let me see. Oh, I think because I got you. So you put the input LUT on the source file.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that's what you did.
I didn't know I did that. I swear I know the difference.
It's because you had this checked while you were going around before so you should have had this one checked. That makes sense.
Actually, I didn't even know you could collect right source.
Yeah. So basically what I do now is, so I'll go into all my footage. Where's my footage? And then I'll click one, input LUT, 709, copy this, apply this to all of my footage. And all of my footage is in Rec 709. Obviously, you need to take away the...
Yeah, because now it's double.
There's the... oh, yeah. This one. There you go.
Now that has a double?
Actually, this one was the balanced one, so it'll look a little different. But
oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that's a kind of basic.
Yeah, I'm the type of person who just needs to do it herself, myself.
Yeah.
To get used to it.
So starting off, ever since I got my hands on these area look LUTs, it kind of changed my life. It was super helpful in because it's just a good starting point, pretty much. Because S-Log, like grading S-Log 3 manually is really tricky. So having a good solid starting point to work off of is super helpful. So I go to here, curves. Actually, I'm going to color. So a lot of the blacks are already down there.
Is that a TI-89 next to your keyboard?
It is. I use it a lot.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people are like, what the
I still have mine. Hey, man, I'm not judging.
Dude, I started using it a lot for especially for finances and invoices and budgets. Because I don't know. I mean, yeah, why don't you use your phone? Well, it's dude, I like having tactile buttons and
parentheses.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's just different. It's I don't want to use my phone for everything. It's phones are great, but
I mean, you spent a bunch of money on that for high school. Might as well use it.
Might as well freaking use it. I mean, it's
calculus.
A calculator. I hate having to pull up my phone, search, and open up the calculator app, and I just push on
and start punching numbers.
and like I can like I can like delete, you know, specific numbers. So it's really helpful for me. Yeah, I freaking love that thing. But yeah, let me try this these creative LUTs again. See if this is any different. Thanks for the sub.
Yeah. Does that really pop up every time you get a sub?
That's funny. Yeah. It doesn't really
cool.
happen too often, but
yay.
it's funny. So all right, let's see. F9820. Let's try this. Hopefully this works. Save. I like also I whenever you try to open up a different LUT, always save, because for me, whenever I've done that, it's like crashes a lot. It'll just hang and
no, that's happened to me too.
Yeah, exactly. So was this F9820? Was that
Thanks, bugs.
Sorry, I missed your comment. So if you just above and below middle sections contain. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if I go into my curves, so check out my waveform. Skin tones are a little bit, I raised them a little bit. They're kind of around 60-ish, kind of spilling above 70. So actually, if I wanted to bring them down, I can actually globally bring everything down if I wanted to maintain the 40 to 60 IRE. And then I'll probably bring this up for a little less contrast. So basically, right, this point is basically controlling my skin tones. So if I added if I just kind of pin it and I drag on my shadows, this is kind of only, you can kind of see the side of her face. Obviously the shadows are affecting kind of almost the whole image because there are shadows along the whole image. But if I start dragging this around, this for the most part remains the same. And then conversely, there's not much highlight detail in here, but if I start bringing up the highlights, yeah, like there's not really much. A lot of the highlights are like kind of the specular parts of the skin, but yeah. If you want it to really fine tune skin tone and like contrast within skin tone, a lot of times I like bringing them up because that will force the shadows down. So if I take away, actually, I don't even know if you can. So if I bring the skin tones up, that'll automatically force my shadows down and then automatically force my highlights up. So that'll kind of give a natural contrast. So I love messing with this kind of middle part and bringing this up and down. Obviously not too much, but just enough to give a little something. Exactly. So let's see, what was this? F9820. Please work.
That still looks cool.
Yeah, that's.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
That's.
No, did you put it at 75%?
Yeah. No, I didn't. Yeah, so just a little bit. So obviously it'll look a little bit different because it's JPEG, like different compression.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, that's basically what I'll do is once I have the whole sequence edited, I'll pick one frame that kind of I think really encapsulates the mood and feel of the video. I'll plop that into this preview. I'll cycle through and be like, okay, I really like how this feels, and then I'll adjust the intensity obviously, and then double back to Premiere and then input that in, and yeah. So actually, if I want, let me see if I can open a recent project I did.
Hey, I was just there.
Nice.
Literally, like right before I
Really?
came here.
So I'm going to mute this. So this was a project I obviously did at Marquee. Let's see. So this was my base. Like I made all of my adjustments. So if you hear this is the curve I made for this, and you can see, look at the waveform.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really much clipping except for maybe these white walls back here. And you can see like it depends on for specific scenes. I'll do maybe something different. Some were maybe a little bit overexposed, so that's why you see the different variations. But for the most part, it's the same. Like this one, I had to kind of tone everything down because everything was it was a little bit overexposed.
Mm-hmm.
The butts.
Yeah, butt shots.
But yeah, pretty much the same, just kind of different variations of this curve. And then after this, I added my LUT. So for this frame, I think I used two chicks. I think I used this one.
Question.
Yeah, what's your question?
So if you DP and you're sending off your footage to somebody else, do you color pass it before you send it off?
You should. Yeah, I know.
That's what I've learned recently from Jeremy.
It's hard sometimes it's hard to do. Like that's one thing that I've been really like kind of hesitant of, like passing my footage off to other people, because like you have to and like at the Hollywood level, like the DPs are there in the color timing process, because like how it should look, like how it should be colored. So like I had a short film that came out last year that I did, and the whole thing was presented in S-Log. I was like, wow.
Oh, so they didn't even color correct it?
Awesome.
Oh.
Actually, no, I don't want to pull it up. But I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like I gave you the LUT and everything, but like, dude, this is S-Log. I'm watching a short film in S-Log. Are you freaking kidding me? So it's like you just have to expect your editor or whoever that they'll make a color pass, and then obviously help them by giving them your monitoring LUT, because that says like, okay, when I shot it, this is how I envisioned it to look. Mm-hmm. So obviously providing them with your LUT is obviously very helpful, but yeah, it's tricky.
Okay.
Like ideally you would be there in the editing process, but obviously that's not like always.
Yeah, because I mean,
feasible.
I'm usually always editing my own footage.
Right. So it's a lot. Yeah, me too. So it's a lot easier.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm trying not to edit. I'm trying not to edit as much this year around like going back to freelancing. So that I was just wondering what your opinion was on that.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough.
It's tough. It's because I'm doing a couple more short films actually the next couple months, and I think I'm actually editing one of them, so that'll be fine. But I think another one of them I'm doing in LA, and I'm handing all my footage off. So I'm like, it's like it's kind of nerve wracking,
Mm-hmm.
It's just.
Well, I mean,
especially at like the lower end levels, like where I'm at, where like a lot of the short films I'm doing are with like film students. They're with a lot of like not professionals, so
not like Hollywood. Yeah.
Well, not even Hollywood, like actual like an editing professional. Like I don't know really too many. Like I only know a handful like editing professionals, and like coloring is a totally different ball game. So
yeah, I mean that's why they have colorists.
It's tough. So this was kind of my base. So if I toggle my curves off. So this was what I recorded. This is what I saw when I recorded. Mm-hmm. This is S-Log. Actually, no, I can't show you S-Log because it's in the master clip. But this is what I saw when I recorded. Added a quick curves adjustment, and I really didn't tinker with the color. And then I added my final creative LUT. Let's see, this one was at 75%.
That layer that you just turned on, that was a LUT?
Yeah, it was an adjustment layer. So make an adjustment layer. And then,
I've never done an adjustment layer before.
Yeah, so basically it just affects everything below it. Mm-hmm. So make an adjustment layer, put it over the whole thing, and then go into Lumetri, add whatever you want, and it'll affect everything that appears under it. So if I just did something really drastic, that'll affect the whole thing.
Because I've seen people use adjustment layers before. I just never asked why.
So some people will actually do their whole color correction on an adjustment layer, but I don't like doing that because each clip should be different. Mm-hmm. Each clip shouldn't be copy and pasted, but sometimes we do that, or sometimes I do that because it's just if it's the same scene, mostly the same settings, it should look the same. But there are those outliers, which are like, for instance, this one. This one I brought it super down because I wanted him to be silhouetted, but what I actually saw when I recorded him, there was a lot of kind of shadow detail here, but I absolutely didn't. I just didn't want it, so I wanted to completely black him out. So that and this curve is obviously very different from this curve because you can even see where I dragged the blacks over. And if I actually look at my waveform, this is where he's at. And so I just wanted to really black him out. And yeah.
Cool. I'm learning so much.
That's good. So yeah, this was fun. I was really worried because I was like, man, like the first 2 hours were like, no one was there. And I was like,
yeah. Welcome to the club.
I was like, dude, what am I going to do? So yeah, I don't know if you had any other,
no,
specific
most of my
questions.
questions just popped out when they needed to,
Nice.
I guess.
Another thing about like overexposure. The reason that people overexpose S-Log is because a lot of people think S-Log is noisy. It's not. They just don't know how to handle it correctly. So what a lot of people do is they'll overexpose by 2 stops. So it'll be 4 times brighter than it should be. And then they'll bring it down in post. And what that does is it brings the noise floor way down. It just crushes the noise so that your blacks are super clean. And it gives you this really clean, like almost barely any noise. So actually I have a test so this was a test that I did. And I'm going to try to use my live switcher here.
Which button is it?
This one. Okay, cool. There we go. So I did this a few months back. So the FS7, yeah. The base ISO is 2000, and I exposed at 500 EI. So that's two stops over. So 2000 to 1000, that's 1 stop. 1000 to 500, that's another stop. So 2 stops overexposed, and I wanted to see how much cleaner of an image I would get by exposing 2 steps over. So if I play this down, so if you can see, look at the keyboard here, there's a little bit of noise, and it's hard to see now because like this is on the shitty monitor. And that's why I kind of punched into. So 2000, 2 stops over. It's clean as a whistle. But honestly, like if you go back and like look at this, like I would look at this and be like, wow, that looks great. That looks fine. So here's another kind of. Yeah, pretty much. We're all kind of PC guys. So this is 500. If I do the punch-in kind of really helps. Like, see all this. Oh, gosh dang it. So this is 2000. This is base ISO, and then exposing 2 steps over. There's like nothing there. And then towards the end, I show you what it looks like graded. So this is come on. So this is 2000 EI, 2000 EI in Rec 709. So like that looks clean to me. You know, I don't complain about that. Like a lot of people complain, you're tripping. Like I honestly, from this distance, like I can't really see a difference. It's only when you zoom in, if you punch in, you can obviously see it. And then Rec 709, exposing 2 steps over, super clean. And the thing to note too, I don't know if we get this in the wide, is that when you do expose 2 steps over, you lose those 2 steps from your highlight latitude. So you lose 2 steps of your dynamic range because you're essentially taking those 2 stops and you're putting them down in the shadow detail. So when you expose 2 steps over, you're getting more shadow detail, which makes sense because you're overexposing. You're letting in more light so you can see deeper into the shadows. So you lose 2 stops of dynamic range from your highlights. So I don't know if you can see it here, maybe 2000 to 1000. You can kind of see it. So check this out. So right here, look how this color changes. And so right now I'm at 2000 EI. This is I think I get 6 stops of highlight latitude. And so going into 500 EI, look how this color changes. Did you see that? Yeah, well, it's pretty much lost. It's basically clipped, and it's basically lost detail. So that's another really important thing to note. So it's only really like if you're shooting outdoors, it's really counter. It's opposite of what you would think. When you're shooting outdoors, you want more ISO. When you're shooting it like in dark, you want less ISO. Because when you change your ISO, that adjusts your noise floor and your kind of dynamic range. So if you imagine, here's your scale, and then next, let me go to the main camera. There we go. So if here's your scale, and then say this scale, you have this amount of dynamic range at 2000 ISO. Once you move that scale down, so if I go to lower ISO, say like 400, 200, I'm moving this scale down. So I'm losing out on highlight latitude, and I'm giving that to my shadow detail. Yeah. So if I move my ISO up, you obviously get more highlight latitude. And it's like really opposite because like that increases the sensitivity of your camera, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so bright. And that's why I think it kind of works opposite of the way you would think. But yeah, ISO gets really like nitty gritty, like super technical.
I've noticed that I've had some grainy footage.
Yeah, especially S-Log, because I don't think S-Log was really designed to S-Log wasn't really designed for you to change your ISO, at least in my opinion, much. That's why I always, well, at least on the FS7, you can't even change your ISO when you're shooting S-Log. But whenever I do shoot S-Log on my like 6500, on anything else, I always try to shoot at the base ISO
of 1600.
It's 800 for me on the 6500.
Oh,
for
it is.
For the A7S2, it's 1600. The A7S2 is kind of a super outlier because of the noise performance. So you could honestly shoot at almost any ISO with modesty, you know, before it gets like too crazy. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because I've noticed I tried to shoot S-Log 3 and color grade it, and it's grainy, and I'm like, all right, I just don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, well, shit.
I'm like, okay, I'm not doing something right.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I always try to practice. It's really good practice because it just eliminates variables for you. So A7S2 is 1600, so try to and it's hard, especially with run and gun stuff, a lot of dock stuff. Like sometimes you don't have the choice to only shoot at 1600, but luckily with A7S2, if you do boost up your ISO, it'll still be relatively clean. But for for my camera, I always shoot at 2000 ISO, even if I'm outside, and it's like that's why I use NDs, and like that's what all these extra tools are for. If I was using a smaller camera and I was outside, I would get the Very ND. So yeah, it's really good practice to shoot at the base ISO, because the base ISO gives you the maximum amount of dynamic range. For your camera. Once you start moving around your ISO, once you start just changing it, imagine your scale, like say 1600 ISO. It's this, you get this much dynamic range. Once you start moving it, it'll slowly
compress.
It'll shrink.
Yeah.
It'll slowly kind of like waver. And like say the Alexa, for example. The Alexa is really cool because the Alexa almost has very minimal like loss of dynamic range as you change your ISO. It's like 0.3. It's like maybe a third of a stop here. You know, very little here. So as you move it, it does a really good job of maintaining its dynamic range as you move that scale. So yeah.
Cool. I learned so much, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of info there. ISO gets super crazy.
I just have to
because
test.
really what it is, ISO, it's just gain. It's it doesn't really affect people think of it as sensitivity, but it's really just gain. Like each camera has a rated base ISO, and that's what gives you your dynamic range. And then your gain, as you amplify that signal, that's where you get all the noise from and stuff like that. So,
man, I feel like you know so many technical things.
Dude,
I'm over here like, I'm gonna just try this.
It's a technical job, yeah, for sure. It's
well, that's why I don't label myself as a DP.
it's a lot going on. So it's fun. It's fun just understanding like how kind of everything works. And like, I don't know. I think it's really cool, and it allows me to approach like a bunch of different situations and know how to like react in them.
Mm-hmm.
It almost like helps me like with my doc stuff, because it's like, okay, these are the variables I'm given. This is what I can do to best produce the best image possible given the variables that I can control. Stuff like that. So like knowing the technical, like very technical limitations, it allows you to overcome all these like different obstacles that are thrown at you. So yeah, it's like super handy. So I've been doing, over the past couple of days, I've been doing a lot of research on like NDs, and I bought those new ones, but I think I'm actually going to return them because there's like, because of that green cast.
Yeah.
And the thing about, because they're IR NDs, so they combat IR pollution, but they're super inconsistent. Like a 7-stop ND starts going towards blue, and it's like, and it doesn't give you a full 7 stops. It's like very inconsistent. I'm like really surprised, and I'm like, dang, it's kind of like bad. So I might invest in another set of NDs, which are like double the price. They're so expensive.
It'll be worth it.
It will. No, it will. It'll absolutely be worth it, because they're like super precise and consistent. So that's my philosophy. Just buy it once. So
yeah, I have a variable ND, and I guess I just have to use it again. Where it is.
Yeah, very ND. It's interesting because I used to use Very ND a lot, and I still do for my smaller rig, but the one thing that like Very ND is very much so meant for photography, because the Very ND doesn't account for IR pollution. And so, do you know what IR pollution is?
Nope.
So it's it's a wavelength that's, I think, above.
Is it supposed to be infrared? It doesn't stand for infrared, does it?
Yeah.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well.
Yeah, it's above the visible light spectrum, and the digital sensors are primarily made of like silicone, I think, something like that. So they're super sensitive to infrared. And so as you stack on your ND, like as you plop on X amount of ND, that IR, that infrared is still coming through and hitting the sensor. So what IR, so actually let me pull it out.
Where is it?
So these are IR NDs. Basically, just put these in front of your lens. And so what these do is they block the amount of light, but 2, they also cut the IR coming through the lens and hitting the sensor. So
what's that one? Is it?
Yeah, this is 0.3, so. But yeah, so these ones have a very distinct like green cast, what I've noticed, and I'm doing actually more testing tomorrow with Savannah. But the ones I want are like double the price. They're like really expensive, but they're like no shift at all, and it's like they're super nice. So, but when you use your Very ND and you ramp it up to at the max that you can, if you like look at the image, you'll kind of notice maybe a little bit of reds bleeding, especially when you look at the tint. Especially if you like look at something that's black or dark, you'll see kind of a lot of reds kind of peeling through, and that's basically the IR contaminating.
Still going through.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's one thing that I didn't realize until kind of later on, but because I used them all the time, I still use them all the time, especially for that little small camera, because like I don't want to put my matte box on my 6500, so Yeah.
Cool. I just need to find where it is.
You're what?
My variable ND.
Oh, your variable.
I had bought a Tiffin one like a couple of years ago, but then I just kept traveling and I didn't want to screw it on every time.
Yeah. And it's all about testing too. Like I would have never have like I thought that these were like great, and like when I bought them I thought there's oh man, I just got a couple platinum like IRNDs, they're gonna be so great, and then I tested it and I was like, whoa, this is like
green.
I mean, you can obviously, they're meant to be like, they're designed to be corrected in post. Like you have to correct them. But like for me, especially like the stuff that I do, like very run and gun in nature, like I don't want to have to stack multiple ones and have to calculate, okay, I have to bring it down this much in post. I want something that's just
ready,
just like perfectly neutral. And yeah, so
man, what a bummer.
Yeah, it's okay though. At least I know. So I mean, that's what I said. Like, it's like all about testing. So like the stuff that like you've learned today, all you got to do is really test it. And there's this tool that I can show you later. It's called LUT Calc. And Jeremy uses this too as well. Run. So basically, it's just this, it's a LUT calculator, and you can plop in a LUT, it'll analyze it, and then you can convert it to, like the LUTs that I'm using were designed for S-Log. You can convert it so that it's designed for red log or V-Log or F-Log,
gotcha.
C-Log, so.
Oh, so I can do that. And then, so I've shot, like I was telling you, I was shooting some of my stuff in Cine 2. So I can use that to convert it to Cine 2? No?
You say it again?
So you were, okay, wait, say what you said again.
Basically, you can, so my LUTs were designed for S-Log. Basically, you put it in and it analyzes the output, and you can change the input to any other like S-Log or C-Log.
Oh, so it can't, wait, C-Log isn't
like,
the same as Cine, right?
No, it's like Canon log.
Oh, dang it.
So yeah, like what you were saying about, was it Cine 2?
Yeah, PB6 picture profile.
Yeah, I don't really use those too often. I try not to unless I just absolutely know. Like right now, I think on this camera, this is just on standard because I'm like obviously not grading it or anything. But and also I'm like jacking up the ISO, but it helps. Another reason I primarily shoot in S-Log is because it gives you the most dynamic range possible. With the Cine picture, like the Cine 4, Cine 2, those picture profiles, it decreases the dynamic range actually of the camera.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to shoot more S-Log.
Yeah.
But like I told you, I was like, I tried it.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is it grainy? So yeah, that's why I asked you, hey, how do you do this properly?
And a lot of it depends too. Like if you're shooting really low light stuff, like if you're like just in absolute like pitch black, maybe S-Log isn't the right option. Like I would probably use the Cine 4, one of the Cine 4, there's a Cine 4 S Gamma 3 Cine, I think. Like you can change the gamut settings.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, but I mean, because those look really good, especially if you move the ISO around. Like it's just super clean. I only use S-Log if the light is manageable enough. It just all really depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, well, I mainly shoot during the daytime now. I mean, I used to shoot more like night events. Yeah. And so I transitioned, and I think this is a good time for me to like learn. Yeah. About S-Log 3.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would also maybe practice with overexposing 2 stops. It's a little bit hard. It's without like a light meter. A light meter really helps, but maybe just go outside and just play with the aperture and expose something 2 steps over. And then another thing you can do here, so it says right here, stop correction. You can...
No, you should probably change your screen.
I need someone else for this.
There we go.
So if you see here, stop correction, this is LUT Calc. So if you go into stop correction, I'm going to expose this over 2 stops, and then it'll account for that. So that's why all those different flavors of area look LUTs that I have, they're kind of corrected for different ways I expose.
Gotcha.
So
Cool. Now I just gotta go test.
Yeah, it's a lot of testing. So.
Well, I'll have a lot more time after I get back.
Yeah, that's a cool thing though, especially once you have more free time. It's like you just sit around. Like sometimes that's what I do. Like when I don't have when I don't have work, I'll just sit around and like test. That's why I'm able to like learn all this like crazy like technical stuff.
Yeah, I think the problem is that I was just overwhelming myself with gigs, and I never really had time to test.
Yeah.
Too. So now I'm gonna try to take that time to test.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, anything else?
No, that's pretty much it.
Cool.
I think I learned a lot more than I thought I was gonna learn.
Awesome. Well, yeah, this will be on the replay too if you ever want to watch it. And for those of you who may or may not still be in here, thanks for stopping by. Do appreciate it. Yeah, I keep an eye out for another podcast episode coming out tomorrow with my boy Hassani and Alberto. That'll be cool. Rosemary was actually on a podcast a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, episode 3.
You know, it's crazy because like we had our thing about, all about networking and everything. And I think each podcast I've had after the fact has like had something to do with like a major part of that podcast was related to networking.
Yeah, it's a big part, man.
It's like, dang, I honestly didn't realize like the scope of networking. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, well, now you know.
Now I know.
Now you know.
Cool. Well, thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you for teaching me all your ways.
You got it. If you have anything else, just feel free to let me know. We'll do another.
Actually, I do know. I'm just playing.
Do a stream, and I'll get that intro right. I was super excited for the intro, and I freaking botched it.
It's okay.
I'm pretty sure I was
learning process.
I'm pretty sure I was muted, so I didn't even get me talking in the first bit.
Okay, you can watch the replay and see.
And cringe. Maybe I can trim it. That would be cool. Can you trim YouTube videos?
YouTube Live? I don't know.
But no, it'll save the video. But like,
well, then it won't be posted as a live video, then, right?
I don't know. Let's just redo it.
Oh, okay. All right. It's only 8:00.
Yeah. Cool. Well, anyways, thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one.